Okay, so it's 2026. And on paper, I mean, if you're looking at the spreadsheets in Brussels or Washington, Ireland is the absolute miracle child of the global economy. The numbers, they're just staggering. I mean, just look at this number. A phenomenal GDP growth of 10.7% in 2025. And this wasn't some gentle, gradual rise. No, this was a rocket launch, fueled almost entirely by exports from just a handful of global giants that happened to call this island home. And, all this success, it's earned us some pretty slick nicknames. Out on the world stage, we're the pharmacy of the world. We're the data hub of Europe. We look stable. We look successful. We look unbelievably prosperous. But that's the view from 30,000 feet. Because the second you land, the picture changes. Completely. The official story is one of a booming, incredible success. But the lived reality for so many people, well, it just feels different. It's this paradox that sits right at the very heart of Ireland in 2026. So let's unpack it. And the first, most glaring crack in this perfect facade is the one that follows people home every single day: the housing crisis. It is the ghost at the feast of our economic success. So what do these numbers actually mean? Well, they're how our supposed economic success translates into a real social failure. You've got a median house price of nearly 400,000 euros, hitting $500,000 in Dublin. And while those prices are skyrocketing, a record-breaking 16,300 people, including over 5,000 kids, are trapped in emergency housing. These aren't just statistics, right? These are lives completely on hold. So, what are we being told? Well, the official response is all about supply, supply, supply. We hear about these huge infrastructure projects, especially in crucial areas like County Louth. You've got the Panccar Road in Drogheda, supposed to unlock land for thousands of homes. The Narrowwater Bridge, finally happening. Tax incentives everywhere. The message is loud and clear. We are building. And that brings us to the real question here, doesn't it? You can build thousands and thousands of homes, but if they land on the market at prices that are totally disconnected from what local people actually earn, who are you building them for? When the price tag is being set by global investment funds and not by the needs of local families, you're not solving the problem. You're just making it bigger. And this quote, it just captures that feeling on the ground perfectly. The goal seems to have shifted from creating actual living communities to just generating reliable returns for international investors. The whole idea of the Irish dream is basically becoming a line item on some fund's balance sheet. And this whole disconnect, it leads right into our second major stress point, our energy grid, the very foundation that our modern digital economy is built on. And right now, that foundation is dangerously fragile. Look, on paper, our green transition is a massive success story. We stopped burning coal for electricity back in June 2025. For the first time ever, renewables generated more of our power than fossil fuels. But then you hit reality. And the reality is a story of a critical bottleneck. We have these world-class ambitions running on a grid that's decades out of date. We're talking a 10-year wait for new connections in some places. Our green future is literally stuck in a queue. We're aiming for a 51% cut in emissions, but we're actually on track for less than half of that. And this weakness in our infrastructure, it gets way more serious when you get hit by outside shocks. There's a conflict in the Middle East, and suddenly oil prices are soaring past $100 a barrel. Now, this isn't just about what you pay at the pump. It's a national security issue. It totally exposes how much we rely on a stable world and a strong domestic energy system. And the consequences of this? They're incredibly real. Our healthcare system, the HSE, is betting everything on digitalization. Virtual wards, electronic records, all of it. And it's a brilliant plan to help an overwhelmed system. But here's the thing. Your virtual doctor's appointment doesn't happen if the power cuts out. We're building this high-tech future on wires that just can't support it. Okay, so let's step back for a second. When you put all this together, the housing ghost and the energy bluff, you start to get a much clearer, much more skeptical picture of the Irish economy. It's time to actually diagnose the core stressors hiding underneath that shiny surface. And this is the key idea we have to get our heads around. It's what's called the two-speed economy. Think of it like this. In the fast lane, you have the huge transnational tech and pharma companies just breaking records left and right. But in the other, much slower lane, you've got the domestic economy, the local shops, the small businesses, the everyday workers, who are just not feeling that same speed at all. And this two-speed reality, it leaves us with three huge vulnerabilities. First, what you could call a fiscal cliff. About a quarter of our entire government's money comes from the corporate taxes of just a tiny number of companies. Second, the real risk of energy brownouts from a grid that just can't keep up. And third, a mortgage bubble that's being inflated by prices that have zero connection to what most people actually earn. You know, there's a saying going around that just captures our vulnerability perfectly. A small policy change in Washington, a little downturn in the global tech sector. For us, these aren't distant problems. For Ireland, they are immediate, existential threats to our economy and to a public health system that's already stretched to its absolute breaking point. Just let that number sink in for a second. 96%. That is the average bed occupancy in our public hospitals. The internationally recommended safe level is 85%. So this isn't a system that's just under pressure. It's a system that is constantly in crisis mode, with absolutely no shock absorbers left. So where does all of this leave us? Well, it brings us to a massive fundamental question for 2026. This isn't just another year for business as usual. It feels like a crossroads, a moment where a real decision has to be made about what kind of country we actually want to be. Look, the path forward isn't about small tweaks. It demands a huge shift in our priorities. We need real housing reform that actually focuses on affordability for citizens, not just more tax breaks for developers. We need a national mission to build a grid that can actually power our future. And we need to build a truly balanced economy, one that values a local shopkeeper in a small town just as much as it values a multinational CEO in Dublin. So I want to leave you with this one question. It's the simplest, but maybe the most important one of all. The macroeconomic numbers, the GDP figures, all the headlines, they all say Ireland is one of the richest countries on earth. But do you feel rich? It's time we all started asking if the 2026 plan is actually working for us, or if it's just working for the spreadsheets. Because the gap between the Ireland that exists on paper and the Ireland that we all live in, well, it can't be ignored for much longer.